So our first review that we got up is M3GAN. M3GAN is the new movie out right now, starring Allison Williams. Allison Williams, who we know from Get Out fame. In this movie, it deals with a little girl who parents end up dying in a car accident. You see this in the very start of the movie. Their parent, like her, Katie is the little girl's name. They're like her parents are taking her to like this. They're going like to a cabin. Apparently, they're going to the motel that The Shining was taking place. I guess because you see them driving up. It's that like
exactly my first fucking thought.
Yeah, because you see them driving up
to the goddamn Overlook.
Yeah, I mean, like, what the fuck house is like? It's on some mountain covered in stone. Like, what the fuck is this? Like, where are you going? Like, it's like going to the Shining, the Overlook Hotel. So they're going to that, and then they end up getting into a car accident. Both her parents end up dying. Then she gets transferred into the custody of her aunt, who is played by Allison Williams. And Allison Williams in this movie, she's like almost like a tech genius almost. I mean, she could be placed in a Marvel movie with the Avengers. Like she could be building Jarvis or Vision.
She could be building her own Iron Man suit, and I wouldn't bat an eye. But I also wouldn't fucking trust it because it's Allison Williams.
Yeah. Who I'm happy Allison Williams. I mean, she took a break from stalking and harassing black people and killing them to come do this movie. Because it was almost becoming like a thing with Allison Williams because you saw her and, of course, Get Out. You saw her in that movie. And then she was also in another.
And of course, The Perfection, which is a movie that I still don't know how I feel about it to this day.
Yeah, The Perfection was another movie there. So, but there is no black people in this movie. So the black people relatively well. Actually, her friend in the movie is black. I shouldn't say, but usually when black people and her in the movie, it's not a good mix. Typically, Allison Williams. So,
it's like just to the black people and who may be listening. You're going to be safe from her in this film.
Yeah. So I guess that's a little bit of a spoiler in this. Yeah.
Allison Williams got bigger problems to worry about.
And the thing about her taking in Katie is that, she's not really probably the best person to be doing it. I mean, she's incredibly busy with work, trying to create this, these new advancements in toys because she does work for a toy company. But she's all about creating the next bigger, better thing. And that's what leads to her creating M3GAN, which can be, when a child gets this toy, they'll never need another toy again. They'll have the perfect companion that can be with them. They won't ever need another toy. But, of course, how these things go, if you've seen a movie about an AI, robot, how kind of these things are.
Just the second you hear the words A and I, the letters A and I put together in any kind of movie description, you kind of already know where this is going to go.
Yeah. Which, I mean, some things in the movie... if you saw the trailer and, there was that moment that went viral with the trailer of, her dancing and everything like that.
You mean the M3GAN shuffle?
the M3GAN shuffle. Yeah. I mean, if you saw that and you were expecting, like something crazy and everything like that kind of going on. I mean, the movie's not really that crazy, that wild, really. You can basically, it telegraphs what it's going to do. Like you already know who M3GAN, like who her first victim is going to be. Like you can already see it coming, you can already see kind of maybe they set up a lot of things of what's going to happen at the end. So, I mean, I would say that's a big thing in the movie. I think the movie also tries to have a little bit of a social commentary when it comes to parents and, parenting children and, especially now it's now 2023 of how kids are very dependent on technology, kids constantly all day look at screens, they look at tablets, they look at their phones, they look at computers. And it's a lot of...
Yeah, I just came from like babysitting my niece and hanging out with her for 3 weeks while I was home on leave, and she's always like crying for her iPad. And it was like watching this movie, I just felt, oh my god, we are probably fucking up a little bit.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, because I mean, it's kids. I mean, they kind of get addicted to that stuff. I mean, even adults, get addicted to those things like that. So, it kind of has a little bit of a commentary on that. I don't think the movie is that smart enough, really. I don't think to delve into it. I mean, it doesn't really delve into it too deep. I think it kind of just sticks to, okay, this is a basic kind of horror thriller type situation here with M3GAN. But what do you kind of think? What were some of your thoughts on M3GAN there?
So with me, a thing I was looking forward to with this movie is because this is a film with a screenplay by Akela Cooper, and Akela Cooper, her last movie that she worked on was one of my favorites of the year it came out, which was *Malignant*. But that movie was played much more campy, much more silly. That movie is objectively, it is not a good movie, but it is one I fucking love for the batshit insane turns that movie takes. And with *Malignant*, I was kind of expecting something with similar tone, but I didn't end up getting that, and I love this movie much more for it, because we do get this very nuanced take on a criticism of this kind of dependency on technology that parents kind of end up forcing on their kids, even though they might have the best of intentions. It's like, even what sticks out to me is an earlier scene at the beginning of the movie of Katie's parents arguing in the car. It's like, I thought we were trying to limit screen time. It's like, I didn't fucking give it to her. It was like, if we didn't give it to her, she'd be like jumping up and down in this car the entire ride there. And I think this movie is like a more balanced take on that topic. It's not all technology bad, which I feel like a movie written by a much older, much whiter person would probably have done. I think the take on this is much more nuanced than that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's room for there. I mean, because it's like, with the technology, when it comes to, it being with children, it's like you said, you brought up the scene of her with her, her parents and talking about, limited screen time. But they're like, well, if she didn't have the tablet, she'd be jumping all around the car and, crying for it and things like that. So it's like, well, you'd rather have her just at least being silent, playing with the tablet than doing all that. And it's like, in some ways, the technology is almost replacing the parent. It's like, well, it's a substitute for actual parenting, actual engagement with the child. Yeah.
And that's a topic that I didn't think was going to get brought up in this movie, which I'm so happy that they ended up doing.
Yeah, because with Allison Williams, I mean, it seems like a lot of her primary motivation for creating this, I mean, she was already doing it already. I mean, even before she got custody of Katie, but also it just seems like, well, this child, she creates this android that's like, oh, it can talk to Katie about her feelings and her emotions. It could be her best friend, and it can.
What stuck out to me is like the first actual dialogue that happens between the character Gemma, who's played by Allison Williams, and Katie, who's Violet McGraw, who, if that name sounds familiar, her older sister Madeline was in the Black Phone.
Oh, really?
Whole other new family we had a whole new family taking over the fucking horror genre.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow.
But the first interaction between them, where there's actual warmth and chemistry, intentionally done so, is when Gemma is showing Katie like her early prototype robot, and Katie just drops the line, "If I had a toy like this robot, I won't need another one." It's like, yo, okay.
Yeah. And that's kind of what leads to it. And
so it's kind of like with this film, it's like it's a conceit that's done with the best of intentions, but it ends up going horribly wrong, which I think some of the best horror scripts end up being.
Yeah. When it comes to the horror itself in this movie, the gore, I mean, it's okay. I mean, it seems they do cut away a lot of times because they're trying to keep it, a good.
yeah, make no mistake. This movie, as it is being released in theaters, is rated PG-13. And I've listened to interviews with both Jason Blum and the director Gerard Johnstone, and they said that the studio initially, when this movie was doing its run on the festival circuit, when it was being screened to critics, a rated R cut was already in the can. But they decided to release a PG-13 version because they wanted to focus more on the comedy, more on the satire elements, versus just this movie being a gore fest, which, as it is, I still think the movie works. However, I do wish we got that extra punch of a rated R version.
Yeah, because I feel like you could do both. I mean, you definitely could have done the R-rated stuff and mix the comedy. And I mean, with the success of things like Deadpool, I mean, they would think that R-rated comedy is good.
Yeah, an example I kind of think of, especially like coming from the same production house with Blumhouse, is the transition of Chris Langdon, who did Happy Death Day, which was a PG-13 horror movie, and going to Freaky, which is gory as hell. It still works in that same realm.
Yeah. Yeah, so they kind of do that there, and the comedy elements here with the satire elements. Yeah, I think it sometimes it works okay. I mean, sometimes it is a little overly kind of maybe goofy, like the stuff with the boss. Who was that? The same guy from The Menu, or no?
Yeah, it's not. Well, so you're saying all Asian guys look alike?
Oh, I thought that was the same guy from The Menu. My bad.
All Asian guys look alike, Josh? What are you trying to say, man?
Well, I guess that Asian dude looks like that other Asian dude from The Menu, maybe. But
trick question. Trick question. No, it's Ronnie Chang, who was on The Daily Show for a long time, who was in Crazy Rich Asians. He was also in Shang-Chi as John John.
Oh, okay.
And he has like plenty of comedy specials on Netflix, which you would know if you, I don't know, I guess you just hate Asian people, Josh.
I guess so. Yeah, my bad. Hey, stop the Asian hate
Racist.
There. But I mean,
you got me on here so I could be token Asian.
Yeah, I mean, when you're not here, I got a backup Asian ready. I mean, I got one ready already in the wings. I got Koki already. You know what I mean? Call him up. Say, hey, you want to do a show, man? And yeah, he's already, yeah, of course. So yeah, I thought the stuff they did with him, like his first appearance coming in, it's a little goofy. It's almost like, and it's not, maybe goofy in a good way, like J.K. Simmons, as like J. Jonah Jameson. It's just like it just is so kind of over exaggerated and just doesn't fit the tone, I think, of maybe what the movie's kind of going for almost, because he comes in the scene, storms into the office, and like his assistant hands him a tablet and he just throws it. You know what I mean? It's like it's just kind of weird, kind of weird stuff like that. I don't think really works all that well. What did you think about the other kind of supporting characters in the movie and then the humor in the movie?
Well, the supporting characters, I think, are fine for what they are, but where I think this movie shines is in its humor, because it's not like the kind of bombastic Taika Waititi-esque humor, which I would expect from a director like Gerard Johnstone, since he's also a New Zealand director. And even in interviews when he was talking about this movie, he was talking about how a lot of directors from New Zealand end up trying to make horror movies, but they end up doing horror comedies because a lot of them are just giddy that they get to make a movie in this kind of space, which I can understand. And for me, the humor in this movie works more when they're actually interacting with M3GAN and kind of delving into that uncanny valleyness of her entire existence, which this movie is 100% built on. And I'm so glad that they did it with a practical actress who M3GAN here is played by Amy Donald and Jenna Davis. Donald plays her physically, and Jenna Davis does the voice of her.
Yeah.
And they delve into it. They have a physical actress there, and they kind of do touch-ups with CG, and it looks weird, and it's meant to. And everybody who interacts with M3GAN outside of the people that are actually scientists are legitimately freaked out by her, and it works. And that's where a lot of the humor comes in.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it does, and I think that adds to the movie a lot. And I mean, also, I mean, you also have to stretch belief because this whole, like I said, this concept of M3GAN and like for this just to be a kid's toy, I'm like, this would be way too expensive. I mean, you'd have to be like, in order to afford a toy like this, you'd have to be like the top 1% of the population to probably even afford this toy, and for it to be just for kids. I mean, like, yeah, I mean, you got to stretch your believability there, I guess. You know what I mean? Of her just creating a goddamn android just to play with a kid. You know what I mean?
This is a movie that 100% asks you to suspend your disbelief, and for me, it worked. And that's going to be completely subjective, and it isn't really a big plot point because even the entire movie takes place in like the development and the prototype stage of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I enjoyed it. I did like it. Is it going to be probably, what I mean? Maybe people are going to come in this with high hopes because of this trailer, and then they got maybe, really excited from that. Is it going to live up to that? I don't know. I mean, I guess it depends on you, but I say it's a solid movie for sure. And it's a decent horror movie. And thriller. Like I said, good stuff that it does, as far as, with M3GAN, with the cast of, a little bit of the social commentary stuff. That was, I think, pretty enjoyable. The humor, some of it does work. And could have had a little bit more punch in the gore, but, if there is an R-rated cut of this, I wouldn't mind seeing that as well. So for me,
I mean, even Jason Blum stated that during the press for this that there was an R-rated version of this already in the can, and they're kind of waiting to see how well received the movie is as a PG-13 is before they like even talk about re-releasing it or putting it out on Blu-ray with the R-rated version.
Yeah, and I will say, as another complaint of this movie, I don't want to say too much, but something it does towards the end of it, I'm like, just focus on this. You know what I mean? That's all I'll say about that. So for me, I will give it I think I'll give it a lowish tune in for me. What about you?
So historically, January is the dump month for most studios. This is the movies where it's the movies where studios have no idea what they have on their hands. They have no idea what to do with it. Everyone's kind of exhausted from the holidays. So the most movies that end up turning a profit are the ones that were released during Christmas that are still carrying over, aka Avatar, which ended up being the highest grossing movie of all time. But occasionally, I think studios are realizing that, especially Universal and Blumhouse, that movies like this are always going to end up turning a profit because you keep the budget low, you keep you keep the budget low, and you end up serving this niche audience that is kind of craving different things from their films. Because you have, mostly in theaters, I think it's just Avatar 2 and all of the stuff that studios are pushing for Oscar bait, which the general audience is not going to be a big fan of, and probably not going to be flocking to see. Would you disagree with that?
No.
Yeah, but then occasionally one of them does M3GAN, which is on paper this ultra campy, very dumb, almost parody of something like Child's Play. But when we ended up with Kayla Cooper's script and with Gerard Johnstone's direction, is this movie that is deceptively smart in its deconstruction of our dependency on technology, while also being this extremely campy, very fun horror slasher movie. Something that I think I was talking about with a couple friends of mine is camp is very hard to pull off. Either it's too stupid or it's not enough. And I think a film like this kind of dances that balance in the same way that a film like Malignant does for me, where it is very kind of dumb, but it's also so much fun to watch that you end up loving it anyway. I had the best time with this. I had more fun with this movie than I've ever had with a film released in January. I give this a strong tune in. Just off the strength of this, I have a very good feeling about the horror genre leading into 2023, which you had last year to fucking top with that. Good luck.
Yeah. Yeah. So, 2 tune-ins for M3GAN.